Abigail, thanks very much. Abigail Doolittle, they're looking at NVIDIA. Let's talk right now with Shana Sissel. She is the CEO of Banríon Capital Management. And Shana, you make a point in your notes to us that Eric Friedman and others have been making as well, which is that as the cap-weighted S&P outperforms the equal-weighted S&P by so much, and over the last year it's doubled in terms of the performance, it's a great time for active stock pickers. Why is that?
Yeah, so there's this theory of dispersion of returns. And when return dispersions are really broad, which is what happens when you have these big differences between market cap, it's a better market for stock pickers. That's what the academic research shows. That's what history shows. And that's what we're seeing is the very broad dispersion of returns. And for that reason, stock pickers can really win.
Isn't it always kind of a stock picker's market, right? If you look at the fundamentals, in general, or do you feel like everybody's just been buying the market? Because I feel like the market's been a little bit more selective as of late.
Okay, as of late, yes, but I think if you look back the last few years, that has not been the case. Stock pickers have not done well. If you didn't own the Mag 7, then it didn't matter, how well the stocks you picked did, because not owning those hurt you more than owning other things that did well. So we've seen more recently as those names have gotten beat up a little bit, more of an opportunity for stock pickers to do well. But historically, there's these trends that happen where active versus passive, which is a good benchmark, if you will, for stock pickers versus the market, has done differently. The trend changes. So we've gone through a very long period of time where passive outperformed active. Right. And it tends to be 10 to 15-year periods where these things happen. So as fundamentals start to drive stock returns more, and that's what we're starting to see.
It's been 15 years.
That will be better for
15 years, nobody can beat the IVV, right? Or the Qs.
That's the other thing. And Shana, the thing I was going to think about, anybody who's investing in a 401k, they end up buying the market, the index. And I always feel like even some of these big tech names, as everybody starts to say, maybe we need to kind of pull back, that ultimately money continues to be channeled into them. Doesn't that provide kind of a floor support, essentially, for all of these names?
It does, actually. And the reason why is, whether or not something is good fundamentally, if there's money going into it, it's going to go up. And that's even more true as market cap goes down. But we have seen recently, especially in the last year or so, as we've seen small caps kind of struggle, that stock picking in small caps has been a huge winner for at least the last 12 to 18 months. And so that's a perfect example of what I mean. When fundamentals start to drive stock returns, then you can actually add alpha through stock selection. But in the large caps, it's much harder to do that. And that's always been the case.
I'm going to say Vertiv is a small cap here, even though it's a $26 billion stock. Because, when you talk about the mega cap tech stocks, we're talking about trillion-dollar stocks. You like Vertiv. I want to get into some of your individual picks, Shana. You like Vertiv, which is an AI play. It's a data center. I wonder if they also get, support from the infrastructure bill in the U.S. because it really is infrastructure build out. But isn't that trade already really crowded?
It's up 50% this year.
Yeah.
I don't think it's really crowded, and it's funny to me that we're going to call Vertiv a small cap. I remember the days when small cap was defined as under $1 billion in market cap. And I don't feel like that was that long ago. But to your point, I actually don't think that a lot of people have been paying attention to this stock. It's not one that I hear mentioned very often, but it is a second derivative beneficiary of the AI play, as it does cooling systems for these large data centers. Whereas you need more and more computing power for machine learning, you need to have, cooling for your servers because they get hot. And the more computing power, the hotter they get. So this is a stock that will benefit as we continue to build out the infrastructure to support AI. But I don't think that it's overdone at all. As a matter of fact, you said it's up 50%. Now look at that compared to NVIDIA over the same period of time, and I would argue that it's really not been bid up nearly as much as it could have been.
Hey, let's go to Apple, which is another name that you like, and it's down about 9% from the mid-July point. So we've seen somewhat of a pullback. What's the play? And that's, again, one of those big mega cap tech companies.
So Apple had some weakness even prior to the sell-off that we've been seeing in the big tech names, largely because there was some uncertainty on whether or not they were going to be able to compete with, Microsoft and others in the AI space. And they came out and they made it clear that they will be able to, but then there was some questions about iPhone sales and a number of other things. And so the stock has been weak for a while. Comparatively speaking, the stock may be down 9%, I think you said, but NVIDIA's down like 20. So it's actually held up better than some of the other mega cap names. And I actually like the stock, and I have liked the stock since we've seen the weakness in it. I think long term, Apple has like a great moat. Anybody who has an iPhone knows, like, you can't leave the ecosystem and you don't ever want to be the green bubble. So, I think that alone gives Apple an edge, and the stock is trading at a pretty reasonable valuation. So for me, it's an easy thing to say buy this big mega cap technology company, but this is a name that I think hasn't participated as much as some of its peers on the upside, and it's not as beaten up. It's a stock that I would add to at this point.
I will lock people out of a chat if they have a green bubble. I want to ask about Novartis. All we talk about is, Novo Nordisk, Eli Lilly, GLP-1s. To my knowledge, they don't really have one there. Why do you like the stock?
So, full disclosure, I am here today because of Novartis. They have some game-changing oncology drugs. So one of their biggest blockbuster drugs, which is absolutely changing the game, is their Kisqali drug for women with advanced breast cancer. And they have a number of really blockbuster oncology drugs. So, we can, look at the sexy drugs that are out there related to diabetes and weight loss and things of that nature. But at the end of the day, it's these game-changing oncology drugs by Novartis that I think have the longer-term trends in them, because, we're starting to see how things like Ozempic are affecting people in a negative way with long-term use, whereas these oncology drugs, long-term use is keeping people alive, and I think that's a beneficiary. That's a benefit and a tailwind to a stock like Novartis.
Beating cancer is something that we all want to get behind, and we're glad you're here, Shana. Thanks so much. Shana Sissel there at Banríon Capital Management. Real quick, I just want to show a comp chart. She mentioned if you put up Vertiv against Novartis, and I put it up also against the Qs, it's really underperformed. So maybe it's not too.
Do you mean against NVIDIA?
Sorry, against NVIDIA. Yeah, NVIDIA is here in orange, and Vertiv is the white line there. The Qs are yellow. So it's definitely got some room to run if you think it's on the same path.
If it's comparable. And I always feel like when we talk about NVIDIA, it's kind of in its own class, and it's way ahead of the pack in terms of the AI play. But I guess time will tell, right, if everybody can catch up.